Hi there guys, welcome back to the channel. On today's video I'm going to be trying to attack the second part of the 12-speed alpine drill press restoration. In the previous video there you would have seen me making up this bush, but I never actually showed a view of it finished. So there's the brass bush installed in the casting. As you can see here, it's a nice fit, and obviously I've got this shaft in from the back side here. It goes internally and meshes with a pinion gear to drive the rack. But I'm happy with that fit now, and you would have also seen I have turned a worm gear onto the outside of this piece of cast here, which is the table support. Obviously it's been sat for a couple of months now, so a little bit of rust on the surface, but that's not to worry about. So I'm just going to try and pick up where I left off, and I had been looking at the headstock of this drill, and where the coil slides inside the main casting here, it comes up to the top, and then there's a second set of bearings that slides in this section here, which are these bearings here. And at the moment, well, how they were, the retaining clip had lost its bite and the bearings were sinking down into the casting, which is why I believe in the first video, like I showed, this pulley here has been worn away quite severely, to be honest. So it's been like that for a good while. So I was thinking of maybe drilling and tapping a grub screw, but there's not going to be enough meat on the edge of this casting, so I'm going to have to just hope that these retaining rings can go back in place and will do their job. I've cleaned the grooves out nicely, and I've cleaned the rings off as well. They were heavily covered in old grease, so I don't know if maybe some of the hardened grease has helped the thing squeeze out of there, you know what I mean. So with any luck we can get this to work with the original setup and get this drill back together, because I could do with using it, to be honest. And I might just do the paint job once it's back together, because there's not very much to this machine. So a little lick of paint once it's back up and running, that's not a problem. We don't have to go full strip everything back and repaint everything. It's not necessary for this machine. So yeah, I'm going to be cleaning up the coil a little bit before it goes back together, and then I'll clean out these bearings, and they feel good, so I'll just re-grease these bearings and get them reinstalled. I have thought about possibly drilling a hole for a grease nipple, but then there's this retaining, this spacer collar here that I'd have to drill through as well, so I don't know if I'll do that yet, but I'll take some measurements to see where the bearings will land, and then I could figure out where it might go if I did decide to do that. So yeah, we'll see how we get on. Alright then guys, so as you can see I've started reassembling the headstock of this drill press now. I've decided that I'm not going to bother painting, as I need the machine just back together and off the bench, so I'm not going to bother stripping everything back and repainting. But what I am doing is reassembling everything, making sure it's mechanically sound, and then I can tackle the paint at a later date once it's back together. So as you can see here, I've got the base and the column bolted back together. I've got the rack and pinion installed onto the column there with the little retaining collar at the top, and you can now see that this will move nice and freely when I back off the locking handle at the back there. So I'm happy with how that's travelling, because previously the column was covered in grime and dirt, so this casting here didn't climb up and down very smoothly. So I've got this reinstalled now. I've also been getting this headstock put back together here. As you can see in the previous video, I blasted these bearings out with brake cleaner to remove all the old grease. So I've just been packing the bearings here with new grease before I reinstall them. I've also got the retaining clip in place inside the bore there to stop these bearings from pushing too far in like they were previously. So I'm just going to get this pushed into place now and then get the top retaining ring installed. So I'm just going to be installing the quill handle here. As you can see in this little retaining groove, there is a small wedge that lands within this keyway and is held in place with this lock and screw for the depth adjustment collar. So make sure to put that on before everything goes together. If I can do this one-handed, probably not. There we go. So that's now in there inside the keyway slot, and if you nip that little screw up, that stops your collar from spinning on the shaft there. So with that installed, I can now get the shaft slid into the headstock here. I'm just going to put a little bit of grease onto this pinion gear here before I install the shaft into the headstock. Just put plenty of grease on here. I would rather it squeezed out where it doesn't need to be, rather than there not being enough. As I don't suspect this machine would have been re-greased in its lifetime, to be honest. I think it would have just got used and used and used. Make sure all the teeth are nicely filled, and it can just squeeze out where necessary. So with the pinion greased up now, I can get this installed. And then you can adjust the quill tension with the clock spring on this side of the shaft here. So I've now got the return spring installed here on the quill handle, and as you can see, if I just loosen off this lock and grub screw, the quill now travels freely and returns by itself, all whilst not bringing this taper collared shaft down here. So I'm hoping that the retaining clips are now held in place like they should have been originally. Happy enough with the return power on that spring. If I want to adjust it, there's a little lug here and 4 cutouts on this cap, and you just work it around one cutout at a time until you get the desired return spring tension. So I'm happy with that. I just need to get the nut for this center bolt here hunted out, as I'm not sure where it is, so I can't currently get the table reinstalled. So until I found that, I'm kind of stuck. So as you can see there, I've now got the belt tension adjuster cam installed with the retaining circlip also installed on that shaft, so the shaft can't overextend and pop out of its guide at either side there. I just need to knock this pin in, this tapered pin, to hold this dog in place there, and then I can get the top guard installed on this drill. So I've now got the top guard installed, the 3 pulleys are back in place, the motor is installed, and as you can see there, I've also upgraded to some link belts to hopefully reduce vibrations and noise on the machine, because the old belts tend to be left for a long time not getting any use, then get used for a few days, then get no use for many more years, so they form into an oval rather than round, and when you start using the machine again, the belts are locked up in that oval shape and it struggles getting around some of these small pulleys. So that's a lot of the time where you get the vibration and noise from on a drill press like this. So with having the link system there, that just removes any memory from the belt, so it can rotate nice and freely, and obviously that's user friendly because you just buy a set length of belt and you can remove a link here or there to make it work for whatever you're fitting the belt to. So starting to come back together. Obviously I haven't repainted the whole machine, as I mentioned in the previous video. I just want this machine back up and running for the moment. But this side here is where all the gubbins were for all the electrics and the switch. There was a lamp on the side as well, but the lamp was just this thing here just hanging on there, so I'm gonna upgrade the lamp on this machine and fit a new switch for the on-off mechanism, because the one that was on this machine is not really suitable anymore. So I've now got the base bolted down to the table. I haven't got any locking nuts on it at the moment, but I will swap those out for some nylock nuts so they don't vibrate loose over time. But for the moment, I'm happy with how this is looking. It's at a nice working height, pretty much level with my welding table there, and got a nice travel on the table there to get decent sized workpieces in. Now I just need to get the switch replaced, as I mentioned in the last little section there, and once I get that sorted, I will be ready to use this machine again and move on to the next project. Be sure to like, comment and subscribe, people. Really helps the channel, and I've got plenty more projects to go through in 2024, so looking forward to getting through them, and I hope you guys are enjoying the content. Please let me know through the comments which videos you prefer, what type of videos, and what content you'd like to see throughout the next coming year. Obviously there's a limit to what I can do, but if there's anything that you've seen on my channel and you'd like to see more of it, just let me know and I'll try and get some put together.